If the thing keeping you from riding a motorcycle is that you're waiting for the perfect time or the perfect bike, you're never going to ride. Welcome back to Bike Like a Dog. Make sure you like and subscribe before you go, and let's get going. There are many people who say they want to ride motorcycles, but it's just not the right time. Or they'll spend months analyzing and reanalyzing all the different bikes they might possibly start on. They'll watch weeks and weeks of reviews and how-tos. They'll become experts on tires, suspension, and gear. They'll devour instructional videos about trail braking, counter steering, and body positioning. They'll get so involved in the analysis of riding that they completely miss the whole point, which is to ride a motorcycle. You can't write a spreadsheet or review on YouTube. You got to get a bike. So far as the perfect time goes, hey, let's face it, there's never a perfect time for anything. People put off having children because they need to get established in their job first. Then they need to get a house. And then they need to do some stuff on the house. And then they need to get a raise. But they want to have a few years with their spouse before having those kids. And then it just keeps going. At some point, you have to just stop and make the decision that, yeah, it's not the perfect time, but it is time. Same can be said for riding a motorcycle. What we'll do is say, we need to study motorcycling. We need to figure out what the very best bike is to learn on. We need to find out just exactly which one fits our riding style. I want one that's not too small, but not too large. I want one that sounds great, but doesn't weigh thousands of pounds. I want one that looks cool, but I can still swing a leg over. Want one I'm actually able to hold upright when I'm sitting still. And then, of course, there's the gear. Leather or textile. Racing gloves or fingerless. Logo, loud and proud, very subtle, or no logo at all. And what's the best way to learn? Where are the courses I can watch on YouTube to learn before I go to the MSF? Because I don't want to walk into the MSF class and look like some noob. And then you can expand that list infinitely for various reasons why you need to put off riding for just a little bit longer. It's a moving goalpost, folks. To be honest, in our lives, it seems like it's always easier to find reasons not to do something than it is to find reasons to do it. That goes for anything. My observation over my lifetime, for what it's worth, is that most successful people in the world are the ones who ignore the reasons not to and move forward anyway. There were plenty of reasons for Bill Gates and Paul Allen not to do Microsoft. Steve Jobs and Mike Wozniak certainly had a lot of reasons not to do Apple. And once Apple was successful making computers, there were a lot of reasons not to go into cell phones. That's not to say you necessarily ignore all of those arguments, just means you don't let them stop you. There will always be reasons to wait. But if you want to ride, at some point you just need to do it. As for the bike, you can be online forever getting different opinions for what you need. At the end of the day, it's going to end up being something unique for you. We're all different heights, weights, ages, strengths, even the amount of expertise we have riding a bicycle. It all comes into play. But that can also throw you into analysis paralysis. You find someone who's your height that doesn't like a particular bike because they feel too cramped or they can't reach the ground. You find someone that's your weight that doesn't like that bike because it's too underpowered or too overpowered. You find someone who used to ride but doesn't ride anymore, just like you. And what did they start on? You finally get it whittled down to one particular power class. And then you watch a lot of reviews comparing the bikes within that class, and you come up with your top 2 or 3. Then you see a video stating that neither of those is good for someone like you because You need to be in this other class. So you throw away what you've done and you start looking at this new class of bikes. Again, you watch all the reviews, you get it whittled down to a couple, watch another video that makes you trash all of that research. And while you're doing all of this, new bikes are coming out with new features. And as each one comes out, there's always one to challenge the couple or three that you've already selected. So now you're waiting for reviews to come out on the new ones to see how they compare to the ones you were already thinking about. And then another new bike comes out. This can go on forever. You don't need to be looking at all of the new and used bikes available in the world today. All you need is a list of maybe half a dozen that fit your unique needs. And if you have 3 to 6 motorcycles you're stuck between and you're not sure which one would be best for you, I can tell you that. The best one for you is the one you get and ride. Bikes available when I started riding were machines like the Kawasaki 400 and 500 families, the Ninja 500s and Z500s. The Honda 500 family of bikes, the Yamaha 300 family of bikes, Suzuki's SV650, the CFMOTO 450 line of bikes, Aprilia's 457 range, and even a Harley-Davidson Street 500 on the used market. And I can say with fairly high confidence that I would have been okay on any one of those motorcycles. Now, I'll also say I would not have been as happy on the sports bikes as on the nakeds or cruisers, but still, every one of those bikes would have filled my needs as a novice rider and would have gotten me out on the road riding. And at the end of the day, that's why we're looking at motorcycles. It's not so we can compare them over and over and over. It's so we can pick one to ride. So, pick one. None of them are going to be perfect. I don't think there is such a thing as a perfect motorcycle. Any more than there's such a thing as a perfect car or a perfect house. There will always be something that we wish was a little different or a little better. Now, my grandfather comes to mind, and I have to pass on this little bit of his wisdom. All right. Now, my grandparents got married in the early years of the Depression, had kids, and so you can understand this put a lot of pressure on my grandfather as the sole breadwinner of the house. And so he had a lot of down-home wisdom that he attained over the years. All right. Now, this was a man that had a fairly extensive garden, cow, all that kind of stuff. Grew a lot of their own food and everything to help them get through those Depression years. Now, when I came along, we lived next door to him. And that meant I got a lot of that grandfatherly wisdom passed on to me as we worked out in the garden, planting, weeding, fertilizing, and harvesting. One day, as we were picking some lima beans, I was trying to decide whether a particular bean looked ripe enough to pick. As I stood there, holding it in my hand, my grandfather looked over at me and he said, "Just pick it. You can't say a prayer over every bean." That little bit of down-home wisdom stuck with me my whole life. Same thing goes for your motorcycle. Just pick one. You can't say a prayer over every bike. The nice thing about your first motorcycle is, if you're sticking with the logic of buying a relatively inexpensive bike, somewhere between like $2,000 and $9,000, they're not that expensive to ride for a couple of years, and then get a different one. Especially if your first bike is used. You're not stuck with that bike forever. It's not crucial that you make the absolute best possible decision on your first purchase. Just get one. Your honeymoon period with riding in general will probably take you through at least the first 6 months, even if it's not the best bike for you. And you'll learn a lot about what you want in your second bike by riding that first one. They say with exercise, the biggest challenge is to get up off the couch. In physics, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. If you get up and go get your endorsement in a motorcycle, you'll probably continue to move forward down that path. But until you buy one, you're just sitting on the couch. So if it's not the perfect time or perfect place to get a motorcycle, go ahead and get one. That won't make it the perfect time or place, but at least you'll have a motorcycle. Just make sure you don't make some serious mistake like financially obligating yourself to something you can't afford. All right, that's my caveat on that. Thanks for stopping by today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and I'll be talking to you later. So long, y'all.